Thanks for joining us today, and we hope this will be an enjoyable hour for you and some new learning along the way. I'm Lori Hendrickson, and I'll be starting things off today. We're going to be talking about April being Financial Literacy Month and providing you with some resources that you might be able to use in programming with children around the topic of financial literacy. And Sara Croymans will be sharing information a little bit later on in the presentation. So we want to just share Financial Literacy Month resources, some curricula that we have identified and have been using in different settings, whether they be informal education or classroom types of education. And we will share those today and some other materials that we've developed. Our objectives then today, as we get started here, briefly we wanted to discuss the importance of starting early in teaching personal finance topics. We'd like to introduce you to free and low-cost curricula. You'll find that these are very affordable curricula that you can use to share money topics through children's books, and we think that that's a great role for a library to be able to do, to share some content through children's books that are already available. These curricula provide take-home activities for parents and some experiential activities that you can build around books. And so right now we'd like you to think about some events that you might already be doing around children's books and share those with us. We're going to put up a chat pod. And if you would be willing to share types of activities and events that you do around children's books right now, just to get us thinking about what we might be able to do around the topic of personal finance. So please type in the box and share that with us. Okay, we see story time. A few of you are typing right now. And I think some of these activities are great for story times and additional activities that you might have. Weekly story time for preschoolers. Other thoughts? As you finish up typing there, we will also mention that there are some curricula available that we would indicate are for elementary school students, and maybe there's an opportunity there to do some programming as well. We also see displays of books on various topics and arts and crafts. So great, those are, and I know you have some library events coming up for April. Is it Library Month or a Library Week involved? I know that that's coming up as well. So I know you have other things going on in April, but we hope that you'll consider this as well. And I see no one else is typing right now, so we'll go ahead and remove the chat pod and move on. So we want you to consider why financial literacy is important. If we think about money management skills, these are life skills that we use daily. In our work, we teach that financial management skills are learned and that they improve with practice. So it makes sense that the earlier that we introduce the information to children, they'll become comfortable with and have opportunity to practice these skills. And so we hope that we are giving them some skills that they can use throughout their life. And also, as we talk further on, we're using children's books, and hopefully they're developing a love of reading as well. A little bit of background information here to share. Just to get us thinking about this, how vital this information can be. If we look at economic insecurity of children, and so we know that children born into poverty are more likely to be poor as adults, and very often children in volatile financial circumstances experience negative effects that maybe those in economically secure families do not. So think about how we might be influencing those children and as well their parents and caregivers that may be in those circumstances. A little more information. Families in these situations, of course, worry about not having enough money for food and health care. Oftentimes have difficulty providing a safe and calm environment. And stress takes toll on children's abilities, or parents' abilities to attend to children, but also children's abilities in learning and such. So we need to think about how we might be able to provide some vital information to a family that will help not only the parents in the short term, but the children in the long run. We often use the Kids Count information from the Children's Defense Fund in Minnesota. And if we take a look at the 2009, this is the most current information that we were able to obtain from the Children's Defense Fund. Look at the numbers of children in poverty in Minnesota. And if you look at the medium blue and that darker blue area, you see that a good portion of Minnesota, particularly rural areas, fall into the higher range of children in poverty. And so think about those children that use library resources regularly and how important information such as these children's books and the content within them can be to those children. This is another statistic that we found from Kids Count, and it's really kind of interesting as you look at this chart. The title is a little odd. Children ages 1 to 5 whose family members read to them less than 3 days per week. Sounds a little backwards to me, but in Minnesota, you will see that from 2003 to 2007, the percentage went up from 9% to 11%. The good news here is that if 11% are not reading to their children, then 89% are. And that was a downward trend, even though it doesn't quite look like that way on this map in terms of the percentage going up. It's still a downward trend in the numbers that are being read to more frequently. Minnesota does beat the national average. In 2007, the national figure was 16% that were not reading. So Minnesota is better off in this aspect. And if we look at positive family environments, we know that reading with children promotes a positive family environment. And here are just a few other things that we know about positive family environments. Stable and secure relationships between infants and caregivers. Looking at how key those relationships are to brain development and to learning, early in life and later in life. Well, what do we know about reading to children? We know that adults and children can learn and develop skills together. Parents are also able to practice these skills with their children as they're reading and participating in activities related to books. And parents often report increased ability to manage their own resources as a result. So think about your favorite book as a child. And I bet you can still remember some of the words and probably movements and actions that went along with the story if there were some. That's really important here because we know that enjoying a story is important, and generally we tend to remember those stories and we're engaged by them. And we all know, of course, the benefits of reading aloud with children. And so if research says, as we have found, that we also retain the concepts within these books, it makes sense that we start teaching personal finance early because we are engaging children and these are fun experiences, so they will remember these messages.
So I'm going to pick it up now. This is Sara Croymans, and I think we would all agree that it is important for young people to learn about financial management concepts. So we're going to pull up a chat here, and my question for you is, what knowledge and skills do you think are important for young people to learn? And so Lori's going to pull this over for us. I want you to be sharing any knowledge or skills you think are important for young people to know and learn. Budgeting, Diane says. And thanks for joining us again, Diane. Saving. Saving money, says Kristen. And definitely these are skills that are valuable to learn as young people, and hopefully they will take those into adulthood. Priorities. The value of money. Yes, so there are so many different things that that are important for young people to learn. And I oftentimes think it's better for them to learn and practice and experience when they're younger, when the stakes are much lower, than to wait until later when the consequences or outcomes can be greater. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, Sharon Danis, Dr. Sharon Danis, is a extension specialist here in Minnesota working in the area of family resource management. And we'll take just a little bit of a look here at how she outlines children and money developmental stages. So as we look at these preschoolers, so our young people under the age of 5, we know that they are just beginning to interact with money and just beginning to understand the very basics. And so as you can see on the screen, they are thinking all money has the same value. They imitate a lot of what adults do. So they are just building that foundation of their money management skills and knowledge. When we look at early elementary, so maybe those ages 5 to 8, again, they are building upon what they know. They're still imitating their parents. They are able to save for something if the saving time is short and the item is specific. And young people at this age are actually pretty good about talking about money, but they don't always have the understanding that goes with that. When we move to that middle elementary age, so perhaps ages 9 to 11, we know that at this age, when they spend a lot of time with their friends at school and different activities, their circle of influence has been expanded to include those peers, and those peers are influencing how they interact with money. Young people in this age frame are looking at how they might earn money. They understand the difference between wants and needs. But they also need to know within the family context that their opinion counts when making family decisions. So again, young people are building upon that foundation of their money management understanding and building those skills. When we move to the early teen category or age frame, young people ages 12 to 14 approximately, again, they are wanting to make more decisions independently. They might be dissatisfied with household income and what it provides. And so they know that planning helps folks work towards goals. They often test values with others. So again, they're becoming a little more sophisticated in their understanding and knowledge of money management. When we look at the last stage, so the middle and late teens, so that 14 to 18-year-old group, they are desiring that independence, but often not financially dependent, right? They need to have money to manage. So just like when we ride a bike, it's good to have a bike to practice and learn on. The same way with money management. They need to have some money to practice with as they are learning those management skills. Now, if we were to look at brain research and development of young people, we know that young people aren't totally developed in brain development until the mid-20s. So we could have extended this one more slide to look at that early 20s age frame, knowing that understanding and skill development continues past those teen years. Well, today we're going to give you a quick overview of 4 different curricula that help parents and children understand financial management and hopefully develop some skills around that. So we're going to jump in and look at each of those individually. The first curriculum is Money on the Bookshelf, and this comes from our partners, our extension partners in Nevada. And it's really designed for parents and their children ages 4 to 10. And you can see the list of the 9 concepts that the curricula covers. This curriculum helps parents teach their children money management through reading children's books and then completing some accompanying activities. through using this, parents gain confidence in reading books and discussing the financial concepts with their children by participating in either group or one-to-one workshop sessions. And the curriculum is really designed for the parents to use the book. And so they may borrow the book from a library, or it can be in a workshop setting in a library. And they read the book with their children, and then there's a parent guide that goes with each of the books. And there's some extender activities that they can do with their children around the various concepts. Now, so again, the curriculum is designed to create that interest in money. It encourages parents and children to have those conversations. It provides access to that financial literacy materials, because oftentimes we aren't seeking out financial management information to use with our children, but it encourages family money management, so conversations. Lori had indicated earlier that this curriculum, that the 4 curriculum we're going to share with you are pretty low cost, and this is very low cost. You're able to print it free of charge right from the website that is printed. And that website is also on our extension webpage, and so there's no need to furiously copy that down right now, but to know that that is available there. So again, the Money on the Bookshelf has lesson plans for facilitator and parent take-home materials and activities and crafts based on the book messages. So this would be a great one, pretty easy to use in a children's story hour with parent involvement. Many years ago, when we were county-based in Extension, I worked with all of the libraries in my county, and I got donations and provided all of the 12 books in this curriculum to the libraries, and they put them in those little hanging bags with the parent guide, so parents could check those out and use those at home. So this curriculum has 12 books. I just wanted to highlight a few of them, and you'll probably recognize some of them. Alexander, who used to be rich last Sunday, A Bargain for Francis, Shopping with Mom, My First Job, Sheep in a Shop. There's a couple Bernstein Bear books, Mama's New Job, Trouble with Money, Tight Times. So there's some real fun children's books included in this curriculum. All right, the next one is Reading Makes Sense, learning about money concepts through children's literature. And this was developed by, again, our partners at Penn State, our extension partners there, and the National 4-H Council. And this is designed for an after-school setting for young people grades 3 through 5. And it does include those take-home parent activities, so they can take those messages home and have reinforcement on those concepts in the home setting as well. You can see the money topics that are listed there. And since this is co-developed with 4-H, everything 4-H does is really based on the experiential learning model, so very hands-on, where young people are able to experience something. They share it, process, generalize, and apply what they've learned. And so it's very experiential for young people. And they're really focusing on life skill development in the areas of communication, decision-making, problem-solving, managing resources, planning, and organizing. So just a little bit more about this curriculum. It, again, introduces children to those basic money management concepts. It uses the literature, the books, to attract them to the topic of money management. Hopefully improves their attitudes towards reading, and where that experiential piece comes in, again, it provides opportunities for youth to practice those life and money skills. This, again, is pretty inexpensive, $17, I believe, plus shipping, perhaps, but pretty low cost as well. A few of the books that are highlighted in this curriculum, 101 Ways to Bug Your Parents. I would like to read that one. Double Fudge, The Babe and I, The Hard Times Jar, From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil's Frank Weiler, You Can't Buy a Dinosaur with a Dime. Those are a few of the the books that are included in this curriculum. One of my favorite parts of the Reading Makes Sense curriculum is they have a page with some funny jokes and riddles around money. So I'm going to give you just a few here to see if folks are still awake. Where do fish borrow money? From the loan shark. One more. When does it rain money? When there's a change in the weather. Now remember, this curriculum is designed for grades 3 through 5, and they love jokes and riddles. So there are all kinds of really fun things that are directly connected with that age group. They also have some Spanish lessons available here as well. When we look at grades 3 through 5 and think about how we might use that in a library setting, perhaps you get young people that age coming after school. They may feel like they're too old for daycare, but the parents don't think they're quite old enough to go home alone after school. So thinking about the audience that you have in your library in those after-school hours, you might be able to reach out to that 3 through 5th grade level audience and connect with them. So this is the Reading Makes Sense curriculum. The third one of the 4 that we're looking at is teaching economics using children's literature. This comes from Indiana, Department of Ed, and the National Council on Economic Education. So designed for classrooms grades K through 5, there are 24 lessons with ideas and teaching activities that accompany specific stories or books. You can see the teaching economic concepts listed there, and you'll also notice it's really coming from economics slant versus the personal finance slant, and they complement one another definitely. Some of the books covered in this curriculum include The Giving Tree, Stone Fox, Holes, Lunch Money, The Tortilla Factory, Ant City, The Goat in the Rug, The Sign of the Beaver. So again, some great books that you may already be familiar with. So this curriculum, again, uses the literature to motivate young people to learn. And through using this, students realize economics is very real and an interesting part of the world around them. And so, again, connecting the reading and the economics or personal finance at the same time. This curriculum as well is very inexpensive, $25 plus some shipping and handling. The fourth curriculum that we want to highlight today is Right on the Money, Talking Dollars and Cents with Parents and Kids. And this comes from our extension partners at Penn State. It is designed for children ages 5 through 7 and the adults that are in their world, parents or guardians, grandparents, whoever that might be. And you can see the list of concepts that are outlined there. And this curriculum is actually designed kind of on that ECFE, the Early Childhood Family Education model, where they bring the parents and children together and they do group time, looking at the book, reading through the book, and then they separate the children into one room and the parents into another room and have facilitators in both rooms. So then the parents are really looking at adult concepts related to the 4 content items listed on the screen, and then the children do some fun activities and reinforcement activities around the concepts. Now they are focusing on 4 books that go with these concepts. So the Planning to Succeed Financially, they're looking at the Bernstein Bears' Trouble with Money by Jan and Stan Bernstein. When we look at the Spending and Saving Money, they focus on Alexander, who used to be rich last Sunday. When they look at planning your savings and saving money, the book is Pigs Will Be Pigs. And then the last one, when they look at borrowing money, they look at Country Bear's Good Neighbor. And so they are really focusing on 4 books and 4 main concepts there. So the objectives of this one, again, is to reinforce those money management skills. Again, encouraging the interaction between the parents and the children. exposing children to books with those financial management pieces. And then again, exposing parents to local resources to promote reading and those positive skills. This one, again, is very inexpensive. You can order it, I think, for $5, maybe plus some shipping from this 800 number that connects you with Penn State. And again, those links or phone numbers are on our website. Young people like to learn in a variety of ways, and each of the curriculum have great activities that support the concepts in the books being taught. There's crafts, there's coloring pages, there are word finds, there are just a variety of things, and again, based on which curriculum it is and which age group they are focusing. But we also know that young people like to learn through the multimedia. And so Lori is pulling up a YouTube video of a chair for my mother that we found on YouTube. And so we're going to watch just a minute or so of this.
A Chair for My Mother by Vera B. Williams, published by Green Willow Books. My mother works as a waitress in the Blue Tile Diner. After school sometimes I go to meet her there. Then her boss Josephine gives me a job to do. I wash the salt and peppers and fill the ketchup. One time I peeled all the onions for the onion soup. When I was finished, Josephine says, "Good work, honey," and she pays me. And every time I put half of my money into the jar. It takes a long time to fill a jar this big. Every day when my mother comes home from work, I take down the jar. My mama empties all her change from tips out of her purse for me to count. Then we push all the coins into the jar. Sometimes my mama is laughing when she comes home from work. Sometimes she's so tired she falls asleep while I count the money out into piles. Some days she has lots of tips. Some days she has only a little. Then she looks worried. But each evening every single shiny coin goes into the jar. We sit in the kitchen to count the tips. Usually Grandmom sits with us too. While we count, she likes to hum. Often she has money in her old leather wallet for us. Whether she gets a good bargain on tomatoes or bananas or something she buys, she puts by the savings and they go into the jar. When we can't get a single other coin into the jar, we are going to take out all the money and go buy a chair. Yes, a chair. A wonderful, beautiful, fat, soft armchair. We will get one covered in velvet with roses all over it. We are going to get the best chair in the whole wide world.
All right. Thank you, Lori, for pulling that up. And so we just wanted to share with you some other resources that are available to complement or supplement the curriculum and to possibly be creative in different ways that they are used. The Chair for My Mother is a highlighted book in 3 of the curriculums, so the Money on the Bookshelf, the Teaching Economics Using Children's Literature, and Teaching Makes Sense. So there are some wraparound activities for this particular book. I had shared earlier the Ages and Stages piece from Dr. Sharon Danis, and those are featured in the Teaching Children Money Habits for Life. So in addition to the Ages and Stages, that publication also talks about how it's important to use a consistent approach when working with young children about money. It talks about how children receive money, because they obtain money in a variety of ways. And then it provides some really practical hands-on teaching concepts for parents in the area of earning, spending, borrowing, sharing, and saving. The second publication of Dr. Danis' listed there is around allowances and alternatives. And so it provides an overview of the 4 main ways children receive money, and that is through cash gifts, earned money, the dole, where we as parents or adults might dole cash out to children, and then the 4th way, looking at allowances, and it looks at the advantages and disadvantages for all four of those. And again, we talked earlier about how it's often very beneficial for young people to have money to practice with as they're learning skills and concepts. Now we have our Youth and Money Extension webpage listed there, and there are numerous resources listed there. And here is a screenshot that is kind of hard to see since it's so small, but we have resources on there for students, parents, educators, so lots of great things and links to curriculum and different things. Down in this bottom section, for featured resources, are some additional resources for April Financial Literacy Month. And so I'm going to hand it back to Lori here, who's going to walk us through some of the resources that are available as you think about making plans for April Financial Literacy Month.
Thanks, Sarah. So Sarah already showed you what the webpage looks like, and so some of the materials that we developed last year include display items, some research blurbs, and some pictures that you can use in developing a display of your own. We'll show you some of those and some that libraries kind of embellish with their own materials as well as providing the books along with them in the display. And so you'll be able to see some of those. We also did a book list that compiled the 4 curricula that you looked at this afternoon and took all of those when we were talking about key concepts. What are those financial concepts? We took all of those, listed them across the top of this publication, and then listed the books within the 4 curricula and gave you an idea of which concepts related to which books. And so you can go through, and depending on the type of discussion you want to have, the concepts you want to include, you can go ahead and choose the books based on that if that's what you're looking to do. Something that Sara developed last year from something she had seen at another university was money conversation starters, something for a parent take-home. And so you see there are some messages there that families can talk about, preferably at someplace like the dinner table as we're all getting together and talking. Those times don't happen frequently enough, and so we would like to give some positive discussion to that could be generated during that time. And so, you know, what we find oftentimes when we're teaching adults is that they will say, we didn't talk about these issues as children. I don't remember talking about money. I don't remember hearing my parents talk about money. And we know that children understand these issues. We're not asking them to have a detailed financial statement from their parents, but they do understand things like we can't afford that right now, or we really have to set some priorities in our spending. And so talking about some of these things in a family setting through something like the Money Conversation Starters is a positive way to do this. So it's a great take-home for parents. We have some additional resources, and some of them we've already talked about, but we do have some podcasts so that if you have a library website where you would like to include our podcasts, link to those, you could do that. I mentioned the display and promotional material. Part of the promotional material included bookmarks that had some developmental stages as well as some examples of books that are available related to the topic. Sara showed you earlier the publications that Sharon Danis has developed, and so we have links to those as well. Other recommended resources, including some of the research reports that we've used to develop some of the materials, and the curricula links that you were looking at today, and those are listed there. Other recommended resources would include also, I see we've got our research articles listed there. So those are a separate category, but other recommended resources as well that you can link to, perhaps financial calculators and things like that that are on our website. And so last year, we were involved in a pilot project. There were 4 members of our team at that time. We had each decided to take 3 libraries in our regions and to work with them in looking at how the materials that we've just shown you might be used. And so across the state we had 12 libraries. We also included 4 University of Minnesota Horizons communities. These are communities that have been identified as communities in poverty and working to develop some strategies related to reducing poverty. And we provided the promotional materials, the bookmarks, the money conversation starters, the book lists, the display materials, and gave them to the libraries to go ahead and use as they would feel appropriate for their setting. And what you see here is one example of a display that was done. This happens to be the Duluth Public Library. And so you see they've added their own little touches to the display. They've added the books. And those are types of things that we would think you might want to do as well. As far as results from this project, I should say too that the Minnesota Jumpstart Coalition, I'm a board member for the Minnesota Jumpstart Coalition for Personal Finance, and we've been doing some things with libraries in the Twin Cities, and this kind of expanded that project that had been done by the Minnesota Jumpstart Coalition. And so bringing out to greater Minnesota and providing some of those materials throughout the state was part of our goal. In our project results, we found that materials were displayed by libraries and take-home materials were made available for patrons. Over 6,000 people viewed the displays at the participating libraries and the communities that were identified. They also talked to us about other Financial Literacy Month promotions that they were able to do. We had included a news release, news article, a website blurb that they could use, and that was used on one website that we know of in a blog, and also children's story activities. And one library mentioned using the materials for a radio program. So we want to think about how you might go ahead and use these materials, and so I will pull up a chat pod here, and if you have ideas about how you might use the materials during April. I know talking with my local library, there's a lot going on in April, so maybe you don't have a lot of time to do promotional activities of this sort, but if you're thinking about doing this, what might you consider doing? Okay, book displays and handouts? Other thoughts? Children's story hours. I'm working with my local children's librarian right now to develop story hours, and she was so thrilled with the curricula that she decided she was doing 2 different books because A Chair for My Mother was her favorite one, and I had not included that in the materials I originally gave her. Book displays, great. Okay, promoting new streaming resources. Oh yeah, that would be great to have financial literacy streaming resources. Right, and maybe something like the book we showed you on YouTube is a resource that you could use. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else typing right now, so I'm going to close the chat. Thanks for those comments. Well, we would be open to any questions that you have regarding our presentation and the materials. We'd certainly be happy to answer any of those at this time. If you have any in the chat box, please share those with us. And as you're thinking about that, we do have an evaluation. We are interested in knowing what you intend to do during Financial Literacy Month. So if you are able to do some type of Financial Literacy Month promotion, in our survey we would ask that you provide your email address because we will want to follow up with you as to what you're able to do and responses that you received. And so as you're thinking about questions for us right now, think about what you might be able to do and how you might be able to share that information back to us. We should tell you also that we have done a research poster related to our library project from last year. And after the webinar, we are planning to do a brief article discussing results that we find here as well as our presentations and the previous work that we've done with the libraries. We have one question here. You gave us some information, some data by Sharon Danis, where those facts came from, how do we get those. Those publications are available on our website, that the extension.umn.edu/youth and money. And so you should be able to find those resources. The publications, I believe, are sample publications. You may have to purchase them. I believe they're about $1.50 for the publications themselves. Well, if there are no other questions, then let me just close out and give you our contact information. We would like to say that our colleague Becky Hagen-Jokla was not able to join us today, so her information is listed here as well. We appreciate you attending, and I will go ahead and pull up this evaluation for you. And again, thank you for attending. This program has been recorded and will be archived as well, so we will be able to share that information with Kristen. In fact, she'll probably be the one taking care of some of that. So we appreciate your attendance, and I'll let you go ahead and complete the evaluation and get back to your day. Thanks for attending.
A Chair for My Mother by Vera B. Williams. Published by Green Willow Books. My mother works as a waitress in the Blue Tile Diner. After school sometimes I go to meet her there. Then her boss Josephine gives me a job to do. I wash the salt and peppers and fill the ketchup. One time I peeled all the onions for the onion soup. When I was finished, Josephine says, "Good work, honey," and she pays me. And every time I put half of my money into the jar. It takes a long time to fill a jar this big. Every day when my mother comes home from work, I take down the jar. My mama empties all her change from tips out of her purse for me to count. Then we push all the coins into the jar. Sometimes my mama is laughing when she comes home from work. Sometimes she's so tired she falls asleep while I count the money out into piles. Some days she has lots of tips. Some days she has only a little. Then she looks worried. But each evening every single shiny coin goes into the jar. We sit in the kitchen to count the tips. Usually Grandmom sits with us too. While we count, she likes to hum. Often she has money in her old leather wallet for us. Whether she gets a good bargain on tomatoes or bananas for something she buys, she puts by the savings, and they go into the jar. When we can't get a single other coin into the jar, we are going to take out all the money and go buy a chair. Yes, a chair. A wonderful, beautiful, fat, soft armchair. We will get one covered in velvet with roses all over it. We are going to get the best chair in the whole wide world. This is because our old chair burned up.